Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I heard First Lady Michelle Obama's speech at Tuskegee University. And there's been a lot of news about this because she made statements about race and racism in America. She spoke the truth. And for that, in some quarters, they are attacking the sister, of course. I saw a video with Glenn Beck. You know, Glenn Beck, the bigot, attacking the first lady and basically saying, well, white people voted for your husband. They voted for him to be president twice. What are you complaining about? I mean, that kind of statement is an utter and complete display of ignorance and stupidity. Obviously, it is a sign of progress that we elected the first African American president. It's a sign of progress that he was reelected. But let's not get things twisted. Racism didn't die with the election of President Obama. Racism continues to plague this society. And the problems that Mrs. Obama talked about still exist in this country. Black people are still racially profiled by the police. We are more likely to be stopped by the police, to be beaten by the police, to be shot by the police. And that's a fact. Our skin color is still a badge of criminality in the sight of many police officers. And people want to talk about how having a black president somehow means that there's no racism anymore because some white people elected President Obama or voted for him. That same black man has suffered more indignities than any other president. That same black man has been disrespected more than any other president. That black man has been depicted as a monkey, as a witch doctor. He's been labeled as a terrorist. He's been asked to show his papers. He's been called a liar during a session of Congress. During a speech, a State of the Union speech. One of those redneck congressmen, racist congressman, called him a liar during his State of the Union address. And as Mrs. Obama pointed out, she has been attacked as well. She's been depicted as a monkey as well. She's been depicted as a terrorist as well. She cited the example of the New Yorker magazine where they depict Obama as an Arab terrorist and they depicted Michelle Obama as some kind of revolutionary with an afro and an AK-47 over her shoulder. And they showed them doing the fist bump to suggest that they're somehow alien, somehow foreign, somehow un-American. So even after reaching those heights, even after graduating from the best law school in the country, Harvard University, even after becoming president and first lady, the Obamas still are attacked, basically for being black. If they can be attacked for being black, what does that mean about the rest of us? A black president didn't stop George Zimmerman from killing Trayvon Martin. an unarmed black boy who was doing nothing but trying to find his way home after coming from a convenience store. The election of the first black president didn't stop Darren Wilson from shooting down Michael Brown, a young man who had his hands up, according to many witnesses. It didn't stop that killing from taking place. It didn't stop those police in Baltimore from breaking Freddie Gray's neck. It doesn't stop the institutionalized racism that has more black people incarcerated than the number of black people who were enslaved. So yes, I can commend First Lady Michelle Obama for speaking the truth about race and racism in America. So before I go, I just want to emphasize a couple of points that Mrs. Obama mentioned during her commencement address. She talked about how African Americans are victims of prejudice, how people make all kinds of assumptions about us. She provided the example of racial profiling, which I've already discussed. And she also mentioned that African Americans are often viewed as being the help. When we go to a store, people will automatically assume that we must work there. They don't see us as a customer. They see us as one of the help. And this has happened to me before. Like if I go into a store after work, people will walk up to me and ask me to help them in a store. You know, they will assume that I work there because I'm black. If I was a white man, I doubt that they would approach me and ask me for assistance as if I'm the help or something. And I've been at other gatherings where people assumed that I was the help. Here I am, a professional, a man who's gone on to college, went to law school, obtained my law degree, and I'm licensed to practice law in several states. And I've been at functions where people assume that I'm the help. This happens to a lot of African Americans. We suffer these kind of daily indignities, daily examples of disrespect. Despite being a professional and being educated, often people will assume that you're less intelligent because you're African American. That's the attitude that a lot of people have. And that attitude is even common among these so-called liberals. They're no different from the most racist white conservative. And talking about conservatives, right now I'm going to respond to some of the statements that I read in an article on Media Matters, and I will post the link to the article in the description box. But this article contains statements from a whole bunch of conservatives. And I'm just going to go through some of the statements and provide my response. First, they quote Rush Limbaugh, and he criticizes Mrs. Obama for allegedly playing the race card. He says that she has a chip on her shoulder. He talks about how she's even angrier than President Obama. And he goes on. Whenever black people discuss the real problem of racism, they are automatically accused of playing a race card. This is not a game. This is our lives that we're talking about. Dealing with issues of race is not a game. No one is playing a card. We are merely talking about the reality that African Americans face. So the president's wife is not playing a race card. She's only speaking the truth. And I commend her for doing so. Also, Laura Ingraham went on to talk about how Michelle Obama worked for a great law firm, how she got an Ivy League education, and she goes on to talk about other accomplishments. And she basically says that since you were able to accomplish all these things, what are you complaining about? You have reaped the benefits of American society. Even someone who is of an upper class, they still experience racism. Racism isn't some condition that people become exempt from simply because they are in a different economic class or because they've reached a certain status. Often there are many stories of African Americans being discriminated against despite their wealth, despite their fame, despite their status. See, racism is something that it's not limited to class. It is something that transcends class. It is something that many African Americans have experienced at one point in our lives, regardless of our quote unquote station in life. Even a rich woman like Oprah Winfrey has been discriminated against, told that she can't afford a certain item simply because the store clerk assumed that she couldn't afford it because she was black. And there are plenty of successful African Americans who are able to buy the finer things in life. They can buy expensive cars and live in great neighborhoods. And those African Americans are routinely stopped and harassed by the police because they're black. A few weeks ago, Chris Rock documented how often the police stopped him. He took selfie photographs of the police stopping him on at least 3 occasions within a short period of time. This has been the experience of many of the so-called successful African Americans. So that's why they can identify with a Freddie Gray or a Michael Brown, because they have experienced the harassment. They have experienced the racial profiling. And no matter how far they make it in life, at the end of the day, they're still just the N-word to many of these people. So yeah, I just wanted to respond to a couple of these comments. There was another comment by this African American sellout on Fox. She mentioned that Michelle Obama was being divisive. She mentioned that Michelle Obama was race baiting in her speech. Addressing racism is not being divisive. It is addressing the causes of the division that exists in this society. You can only create unity and understanding and mutual cooperation by addressing the root cause of the problem of racism. You can't gloss over that and expect there to be some kind of real unity among people of different backgrounds. Those issues have to be addressed. And I commend the First Lady for addressing those issues.